Oh, sorry.
Every family photo we've
We're
got.
wasting some time while we get.
Yeah.
So we're live? So we're live. So let's see. It takes a while for everybody to come in, so we'll wait. Okay, that was just set. So everyone's coming to the live office hours. We got the questions and answer. We're going to follow. I'll follow at Dr. Chuck on Twitter to see if there's any notifications. We still are waiting for about 200 people to come be redirected. Takes us about a minute. So feel free to fire up the questions in either Twitter or in Google Hangouts. That's Google Hangouts. This is Twitter. So the topics to talk about today are whatever you like to talk about, but there's been a lot. The last time that Colleen and I were here, we were talking about specializations, and we were sort of talking about them in the abstract, and now they're real. And both of our first courses within specializations will be starting September 15th, which is like a week from yesterday.
Today, the 15th is a week from today.
Is it a week from today?
Yeah, week from today.
So a week from today, we will be.
Because it's my niece's birthday. Happy birthday.
In the brave new world of specializations. Let me just see how many folks. How many folks do we got? We only have 27 viewers. So let's just fill for a while. Let's not. We don't have any questions yet. Everyone is not being transferred. 38 viewers. There might be being transferred now. So we have this thing where it takes like a minute or two to get everybody transferred into the beginning. Do you have anything you want to say?
Not too much.
Not yet?
First day of the semester.
This is the first day.
I'm going to take my back to school picture later and hang it up. Me, hi, 2015.
Yeah, so we're on campus. It is the first day of school. Do you teach today?
I do not teach today.
Do you teach tomorrow?
I teach tomorrow.
I teach tomorrow.
Yes, I'll be teaching Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
I'll be teaching Wednesdays and Thursdays.
So we'll overlap occasionally, and then meetings.
And more meetings.
So
yep. So
I joined a new group this semester, which is first generation college students at U of M. So to kind of talk about how it's going for them and different ways U of M can
so are you like a mentor?
Not officially yet. Right now I'm a committee member. But when I was back at Long Beach, I was a mentor for first generation college students. And so I wanted to, my kids are all in school. You know, I don't have enough going on in my life right now, but with Coursera and 3 courses, but I want to get my feet wet. So next semester I can start talking with students who are first generation.
Of course, that's a real challenge.
Oh,
first generation college is a real challenge.
It's a completely different world. I mean, when I was at Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach, I believe well over 30% of our students were first generation. And so they taught me a lot about the different things they think about. And then I taught them a lot about faculty are not scary, creepy people. You know, they're your neighbors, and come ask them questions and things like that. So no, it's good. And I get a lot out of it. So it's good to remember what it was like the first couple of days.
So we still have 98 viewers, but let's start with the questions. We're starting to get some questions with 98 viewers. Let's see. Hi, Guy. What about pricing? From Antonius. So I wrote a bunch of blog posts about this to make it absolutely clear. All of the courses continue to be free except for the capstones. And so all you have to do is go to the University of Michigan page, scroll down, you will see specializations. The specializations are not free because they include the capstone. But everything but the capstone is, you can take it just free. So you find the course in the courses listing, go to the course, and then sign up for the course. And then you're given an option, certificate now, certificate later, or no certificate, and you can sign up for all the courses. So I have 4 courses. Colleen has 4 courses. Those courses are all free, but the capstone is not. And the capstone requires that you pay for all of those other courses. But what's really good, and we figured this out sort of halfway through the summer, to not put any educational content in the capstone, not have more lectures, and have the capstone just be about projects and sort of mentoring and interaction and things like that. So don't feel like just because you're not in the capstone that you're missing some critical job skill that we're teaching secretly in the capstone.
No, I think the capstone is this nice idea of when you're in a course, all you're focused on is what's my next assignment? What's my next assignment? And you don't really have time to really think about what you've been doing. And so the capstone is, we're not going to teach you anything new. We're going to make you, utilize the things you've been learning before.
And maybe have to go back.
Yes.
So can Python be used for game programming? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there's a Rice course that is all about Python and gaming. The way to think about Python and game programming is usually if you're going to use Python for game programming, you're using Python to you're using Python to create the story and the narrative, but the graphics are being done by some graphics engine that itself is not Python. My name is Clovis. I was informed that the course starts in October. Well, it depends on which course you're talking about. The first courses that Colleen are teaching 4 courses, and they start in a week, and they roll out each 2 weeks after that. So if you're talking about taking my 3rd course, that 3rd course does start in October.
And mine doesn't follow exactly the same schedule. If you check my specialization page, I've got, HTML this month, the CSS, the 2nd course in October. The 3rd course is late November. We take a little bit of a break for my sanity before we roll out the 4th course in January. So you would want to check for the web development. You want to check the specialization just to see. Some of those other courses are launching out a little bit later, but we wanted to get those first 2 in while you're still excited about it.
Okay. Where did that one just go? That was, I live in a 3rd world country that's in conflict. What is my regime?
Might be gone.
There we are,
Yeah.
right there from Zuid. What should be my normal regime of study in case I get stuck somewhere? I live in a 3rd world conflict zone. Some advice would be helpful.
Be safe first,
Yep.
and make sure you're being safe.
The other thing is that this new mechanism, the way the courses work is they roll over. So if you've taken courses in the old system, if you didn't finish a course, you're kind of stuck. If in the new system, if it's a self-paced class, you just can keep going as long as you want. If it's a session-based class in the new system that both Colleen and I are all using, if you sort of fall out of a class, you can rejoin the next class in progress whenever that starts, which is usually 2 to 4 weeks at the most, and then you pick up where you left off. And so we've tried to make it so that falling or losing your place, or losing your connectivity for 2 weeks because a mortar round fell, hopefully you're safe, but the idea is to give you more chances to finish by giving instead of having to wait like 4 months, you can start in 3 to 4 weeks.
Right. And that would be the longest, 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yep, because we're going to run the courses over and over and over again. Is Python a good first language to start learning how to program? I say absolutely yes. But as a programmer, you shouldn't fall too much in love with any one language. You should know as many languages as you can. Let's see. Wow, they're all about my courses.
That's fine.
No, it's not fine.
I'm curious too.
Yeah, will the Python specialization affect the Programming for Everybody course that starts on October 5th, 2015? We're still working on those details. There is some question as whether or not we're going to move folks or give them coupons or something. So if you are registered for the October 5th Python for Everybody course, stay tuned and watch your email, but we're coming up with something, some kind of a transition, okay? So Gary, I've completed the first Python course back in May 2015. What's the next step? Well, basically the Python specialization, if you complete the first course, has 2 more courses. And part of the reason that we wanted to do the specialization was after that Python for Everybody, you're really just ready to take more courses. You're not ready to go get a job or really do anything. And so we either wanted you to take a class like the Rice class to learn more about computer science, or now we have this specialization that can teach you a lot more about programming and make you a lot more confident programmer. So to me, what I would do if you finished my Python for Everybody course back in May is to register for course number 3 of the specialization and pick up where you left off. and build your skills to the point where you can better represent yourself as a confident Python programmer rather than I'm not afraid of Python anymore, which is really where you're at the end of 10 weeks. Wow. I joined Python for Everybody and was redirected from a website through Coursera. They asked me for 46 euros, just paid to receive the certificate. Is this correct? Well, if you go through the specialization page and you register for the class, then you'll be asked to pay for a certificate. If you go through the courses page and register for that same class, then you'll be given the option. But if you paid for the certificate, that's great. You're ready to go. Wait for an email and we will be off and running. Okay, I've already taken Programming for Everybody, but I don't have a verified certificate. I just have a statement of accomplishment. Is there any way that I can jump ahead to the third section? Yes, unless you want to get the specialization. So statements of accomplishment are not verified certificates. And so if all you have is a statement of accomplishment from the previous class, then you need to start at course number 1 if you want a verified certificate. And that's because in the old software system, we didn't verify your identity. And so we can't just say, oh, you didn't verify your identity, so we're going to turn a statement of accomplishment into a verified certificate. So we can't do that. So you have to take the class where you get your identity verified on every quiz that you take and everything that you do. And so you can't, statement of accomplishment, you just pretty much have to start at course number 1 if you want to get certificates. If you don't want to get certificates, meaning you don't want to pay, then just go and take course number 3. The material is ready. You're ready for course number 3. But if you want certificates, you got to take course number 1 and 2 and get the certificates in those courses. Wow. What kind of assignments will the course have? Well, I'm going to turn that over to you. Let's talk about your course for a bit.
I'll take a look at that one.
What kind of assignments will your course have?
So the Intro to HTML course, the first one that's coming up, the assignments are, the first few things you have to do are pretty much just quizzes. And the final assignment, we're actually going to be creating something at the end. It's to make a really simple web page that doesn't have any styling in it at all. I have a course website up called, and I'll tweet it out later to the intro-webdesign.com. And I show you an example of a really simple page you'll be creating. So there'll be some coding along the lines in that first course. One of the questions I see online is, do you need any software? And I do recommend that students download editing software, but I've included a link. So if you absolutely don't have access to a computer, you can go online and try typing your code in there. As you move on further for the CSS courses and the JavaScript, we'll be doing a lot more peer graded assignments. We're going to have you style something and see if you can make it look a certain way. And because there are so many different ways to alter the appearance of a website, I'm not going to be strict on the standard you use. So HTML course will be very straightforward, syntactic. You'll know right away whether you're done. And with the other courses, it'll be much more, you have a lot more freedom to play with how you're going to make things look.
So I got another question for you.
Yes.
What do you think about the differences between the different experiences between self-paced with certificates versus deadline courses?
Well, for myself personally, the problem with self-paced, that one of the upsides, I'll start with the problem. The problem with self-paced is you need to be a go-getter. You need to really want this. You need to decide, I'm going to do this and go with it. People like myself, I'm much more deadline oriented. So if you tell me something's due now, I'm going to do it. It's like, if I were a self-paced person, I'd be in much better shape than I am right now. I'm one of those people who has to pay to belong to a gym or get a Groupon to go to a class, and then I make myself go. But otherwise, I don't. What I do like about this new setup, though, is that if something happens, your kid gets sick, or something happens at work and you need to drop out for a while, I do like the idea that you're not losing anything. You're coming back and you can go on. The other thing is I really like the idea of people programming together. I like this idea that you start together, you form this little community, and you're out there helping each other. And that to me is going to be crucial. If you don't go on the message boards, you don't see the same people, you kind of know them, you know what they're asking, they know what you're asking. I think it makes it much, much harder to do a programming course.
Yeah, I agree. To me, the new hybrid session-based or hybrid deadlines, if you really want to sort of take your time, you can sort of like use 2 sessions to
Mhm.
achieve what you want to achieve.
Mhm.
If you really can't keep up or just so it's sort of a hybrid. It's not exactly self-paced and it's not exactly session-based. It's in the middle. And so I'm hoping that as long as we give the start sessions often enough, we get the best of both worlds on that. What software is required for your class?
So I would like students to have an editor, which comes free on everybody's computer. I am aware that some students may only be accessing the class on their phone, my class will be very difficult to take only on your phone. It'll be really, really hard to do. But I do include a link to an editor where you can type things in online. So I think the HTML5 course, you won't have any problem at all if you don't have software. I think when you get to the later classes, you'll realize you want the ability to play with things, and you can't do that. But all the software will be free that you need to use. So, but
and the same is true for the Python class, where all the software is free. It's either already installed. If you have Linux or Mac, my software is already there. You do need a programming text editor for both of our classes, where it's not just Word. You can't use Word to edit your stuff. You have to use something like Text Editor, Notepad, or something that is a real text editor that doesn't add extra stuff like bold and italics and things like that.
And if you're wondering what a text editor is as we're talking, I actually put a lecture on that in my course as to why you need this piece of software, and different things like that, which I'm going to bump up, if you don't mind, the question to Colleen.
Yes, that's a perfect question.
I took an HTML, CSS class.
That's a perfect question.
So we talked a lot about this, is that I find a lot of classes can be overwhelming in web development because they expect that you know what they're talking about. Especially some of us, we've been teaching these things for so long. We're like, well, of course everybody knows this or knows that. And so I'm trying to really go back and have these lectures on this is what an editor is. This is how you open a file, and this is how you save it. And I mean, embarrassingly enough, I had trouble like trying to save. If I opened up Notepad and I tried to open things, I'm like, it's not working. And I tried to keep them taping me while I was fumbling through that, so you could see that everybody fumbles. I'm hoping that you'll get as much out of it as you possibly can, but I'm really aiming to ease people in, get people feeling confident. So when you're done with my class, much like the Python, you're not ready to go out there and be a web developer, especially not if you only take the first 2 or 3 courses. But what you will do is you'll know what questions you should be asking. If you go back and you do take a class from your community college, or you're reading the book like that, you're like, oh, this is kind of like something else. So I really want to help you make connections more than anything.
Well, another thing that makes both Colleen's classes and my classes a little different is that since 2010 for you, 2007 for me, we've been teaching classes to people who don't have a lot of skills already. And so we will sit in our on-campus classes and realize that people don't know how to use a text editor. And because we're not in a computer science program and we're not in a web design thing where you're supposed to walk in with some expertise or some preparation for the field, we're teaching people who are going to do things that have little to do with programming, or a lot to do with programming, but they're not programmers. And the same for the web design class. Colleen teaches people who are not going to be professional web designers. So they haven't been preparing their whole life for this class. And we've been doing that all along. And so we kind of already understand the places where we go too fast and we slow them down. That doesn't mean that in the later classes in a specialization, they get a little more challenging. And you shouldn't take the early classes in the specialization and go like, I barely made it through and thank heaven and now I'm an expert. And then what'll happen is the later things will be difficult for you. But we both have spent a lot of energy in making at least the first few classes have a very gentle slope in terms of difficulty so that you can keep up. But it's also then your responsibility to master what we tell you you need to know, because we're not just making stuff up to make it hard to have our final exam be this long, right? We're only teaching you the things we think you need to know. And so if you kind of bypass something, it's going to hurt later. And that's another good thing about the ability to go back to these classes and review, because you might have to review. You might really have to review some of this, because we don't waste time teaching you things that you don't need, and what we teach you, you're going to need to have. Yeah. So I have trouble finding a job with an online course for Coursera. Any thoughts on this one? I love the price, but I didn't get any calls for a job. How can I use the Coursera specialization to be more employable? Well, the bottom line is that what it takes to be employable is not sort of just one class. What we hope is these specializations move you more toward job-ready skills, right? That doesn't mean that once you have a specialization, you have exactly something that a job needs. You should just continue your education and keep gaining and gaining and gaining. And often by the time you find that job, you'll realize that lots of these things come to play, and not just, it's not one skill. There's no job description that says, I want to hire a person who knows Python dictionaries, right? No one says that. They don't say, I want to know someone who can embed CSS on a style equals attribute of a tag. You know, those are the kind of skills you get, but they don't necessarily say the job is something like, we're building a application to get people to talk together in nearby friends they have in geographic locations. And like, okay, I know how to do Python dictionaries. And so you just have to keep learning. You can't just say, I took a class, where's the job? It doesn't work that way. Go ahead.
And I was just going to add in, you can also fall down that rabbit hole though of just taking class after class after class. And what I recommend to my students is when you're done with the class, look around, see if you can find some group to join in with, you know, so you can get practice. And so you can say, hey, look, I actually built this, or I worked with these people. And so take that knowledge you learned in the Python class and don't just keep applying it over and over. You need to learn new things. So people don't care what you know how to do. They care about what you can learn to do next.
And what you've done.
And what you've done.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not so much knowledge. They want to see things that you've created or things that you can help them create. And so when you finish these classes or these specializations, my hope is that you would go out and you would, at this point, especially by the third or fourth class in either one of these, you go out and you start meeting up with other people outside of class who are doing Python or doing web development and getting to know them and getting to know what is it that, you know, people are really looking at right now. Because if you're going to go into technology, you should accept right now that you're never done learning, that you will need to learn something new every couple months or at least every couple years to stay current. But it's the problem-solving skills, the general understanding of programming languages that'll make it easier for you to learn these new things as you go along.
And so one of the things that I want to do at the capstone of my specialization is try to encourage people to make contact with their local Python users groups, right? Because learning from me is only going to get you so far. At some point, as Colleen says, you got to embed yourself into a group of people that are accomplishing things. And so Colleen, why don't we talk about Girls Develop It and what that is?
So there's a group called Girls Develop It that's nationwide, but I've just started to become, knowing them in Ann Arbor. And they have these meetups where they teach people some HTML or some CSS or some Python or some R, or also just balancing work life. And even though it's called Girls Develop It, it's male, female, anyone can join, anyone can get in on it. And I've noticed that what they have is they have these TAs or teaching assistants. So I would love the idea of that you finish my class and you go to Girls Develop It and you say, hey, I would love to be a TA for your class. And then that way, one, you're going to get to know people who are in the field. And two, nothing makes you a better programmer than helping other people. Oh, it's the best way to do it. Which is also why in my capstone in the web design, you're going to go out and you're going to make your own portfolio. I'm not going to give you a picture and say, create this. You're going to decide what you want to design, whether it's going to be about you, whether it's going to be for a job, whether local nonprofit, it's going to be anything you really want to create it to be. And that goes to my whole idea of you need to show that you can create something on your own when you're done. And when you're at that point, the jobs might not start pouring in yet because a lot of people are doing web design, but you know, you'll be able to really market yourself much better.
Right. And the ability to learn any of these things in the context of solving real problems, you learn so much better, right? All we can do in courses is get you ready to the point where you can go into a real world situation and not fail completely and be ready to learn. It's like, oh, wow, I designed this website and it I don't know if you have this happen to you or not, but it happens to me all the time where a student will take my class and then like a year later, they'll have like progressed like 10 times farther than they did in my class. And then they'll ask me a question that's like 10 times harder than the stuff in
Mhm.
my class because I'm the one that taught them Python. And that means I must be like an expert in anything.
Mhm.
And so I say, I don't even know what you're talking about.
It-
You're like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm so glad that a year ago you took my class,
Mhm.
but you're smarter than I am.
Oh, exactly.
happen to you?
I mean, especially because things are changing all the time, even the terminology and different things like that. And so, I mean, one of the things we mentioned is our students aren't computer scientists. So I explained it, particularly my undergrads, I'm training you to manage a lot of times programmers or web designers. And I need you to be smart enough to know what it is they're asking and you to be smart enough to know, to be able to tell them what you want. So I'm not making professional web developers. I'm making people who have a really strong background and who can do things on their own if they have to, but they're also willing to go out and tell somebody else to
Right.
do it for them. So I love when they get smarter than me. And then I hire them to be my GSI.
So how does the Python, from Antonius, how does the Python complement the web design and responsive web course? So they're not really prerequisites to one another, but they're super complementary in that both of them are about approaching technology and making sense of something and reading and parsing. And so for me, if you're at the end of my specialization, you say, what should I do next? I'd say, go take the web design specialization. And someone finishing the web design specialization could take the Python specialization. And it's not like there's this job called Python dictionaries plus CSS3 job, right? It has to do with the fact that the more comfortable you are with technology across a wide range of things and topics, the more valuable you are to somebody. And so I love taking multiple beginning classes until you kind of like, you're like, I got the basics. I totally have the basics across a wide range of topics. And then you're so much better prepared for something advanced. And so for me, it's all about preparation. And, you know, if you're in the real world, you know, and you say you're going to be a data scientist, well, you're going to run into HTML and CSS. Well, let's say that you're going to be a web designer. You're going to run into data mining. I mean, sooner or later, real jobs aren't so siloed that you don't need to know all this stuff.
Right. So, I mean, when you take my class, there'll be no Python in my course at all. However, I think it's the third course in the series is JavaScript. So if you've taken Chuck's Python course, you'll be like, oh, loops and programming. These are really similar, but you know, I don't have to worry about spaces so much. This is awesome. I love it. And if you take mine first and then for some reason you go over to Chuck's, you know, you might say, oh, you know, this is very similar to the JavaScript I did before. Or, you know, then there's those small group of you who are going to be like, I'm going to combine these two together in amazing ways no one's ever thought of. Knock it out.
Exactly.
Great, yeah.
And that's again, when you finish both of them, is JavaScript built on Python or Python built on JavaScript? Not exactly, but knowing them both makes you stronger in general, right? It makes you a confident programmer, which is what I think we both want you to. Confident with technology is what we want to achieve. What time's getting started with Python? What time will the session start? I don't know, whatever time Tim's awake. No, it'll probably be, I don't know.
I would imagine
midnight
Pacific time.
Midnight Pacific time.
I'm
It's
not
at
sure.
least midnight Pacific time or earlier is the way to think about that. Midnight Pacific time or earlier. Tim and I tend to want to get them started earlier because we understand that the world is not all on Pacific time, nor is the world all on Eastern time. And as a matter of fact, New Zealand is like much earlier. And when I can, I try to open the classes on New Zealand time and close them on Hawaii time. So I like to let you go all the way to Hawaii to finish and then start you at New Zealand, but we can't always do that. Sometimes these systems still understand time zones. Let's see. Do you believe that programming is an all or nothing proposition? Is it helpful to know programming even when it's not your goal to be a programmer, specifically in the work world? Could you some samples?
I can
Hit it.
give an answer for that one. I mean, I think programming is now so important to know a little bit of programming that it's back along the lines of we may not want to be mathematicians, but we need to know math. We may not want to be English majors, but we need to know English. So I really think that in order to just be part of society, you're going to need to know a little bit of programming, and you already do. The thing is, we computer scientists have been sliding it in on you for so long, that you don't even realize you're doing it. But I mean, we've all been to websites and had them crash. Wouldn't it be nice to know why? Or, what does it mean? What did I just get a virus? Sometimes you don't know what it's showing up on. And, I'm not going to get into all of that, but you want to feel comfortable and understand, every single one of you typed a URL in to get here. What happened? Like, what was the magic that when you type that in, it came back, for different things like that. So unless, again, I don't think everyone needs to be a computer scientist, but I think everyone needs technology literacy skills is what I call them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think that programming is just a life skill these days, right? And if you think it needs to be a life skill in 2015, think about it in 2030. That how you will be paid money for something that is not either like, being a maid or something. If it's not just like cleaning or being a maid or pounding nails, if that's not your job, if it has anything to do with technology, which means that you get to spend more time in air conditioning and relax and go to lunch and have a really nice
See your kids.
middle class job, see your kids, right? And don't come home with a sunburn. Programming is going to be the way into those jobs. I mean, there just aren't good jobs that truly say there's no technology involved in that job. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're marketing, accounting, you could be a historian and you have to know how to program. And so I think it's an essential life skill, as important as understanding the water cycle and what evaporation and condensation means. And honestly, if I was a K-12 teacher, I would throw out chemistry. I think chemistry is less important than computers in K-12. I just think if you say, oh, there's no space to teach it, well, okay, get rid of chemistry. Do you really need to know about H2O? You drink water and you got to know when to take an umbrella. And so that's earth science, which is not chemistry. But I think it's more important than chemistry. You think it's more important than chemistry?
My chemistry teacher brought a horse up to the 4th floor and couldn't get it down. So my chemistry class was awesome. We didn't learn much, but we got on national TV because he got a horse stuck on the 4th floor. So, but if I had to drop something, I mean, things are being dropped, and I would probably pick chemistry, not physics, because my dad's a physics professor. I love you, Dad. It's the best class I've ever taken.
No, so I think it's essential. I think that we should be teaching it in 3rd and 4th grade. And so Colleen and I are making up for the fact that, to me, the whole rest of the curriculum is all messed up. So we're trying to say now.
And I do teach it in 3rd and 4th graders. I go in right now to the elementary school and I teach 3rd and 4th graders how to program. And if you want a real world example, I mean, when you go to the ATM and you type in how much money you want to take out, you're part of a program. You are putting in variables. You are getting it's running things. So you want to be. And again, I don't think you need to be a programmer, like a hardcore programmer, but you need to understand what's going on at a very general level.
Yeah, I'll give you a specific example also. And let's just say you have a job. Let's an accountant, right? And your job is to understand money. And knowing how to program, especially knowing how to program Python, lets you be a hero sometimes, where there'll be some problem, some data got messed up, and you don't actually have the real data, but you have this messed up stuff. It's got the data in it and some ugly crap in it, and it's all messed up. And it's do we have to hand type all this 10,000 things back in? And we'll make so many mistakes when we're hand typing it. And you say, you know what? I took a class on Python. Let me see if I can write a Python program to do that. And you kind of ignore some data and you pull this thing out and you check this thing, you're adding it all up and you're doing a sum to make sure it's right. And 2.5 hours later, you take the broken data that was important client data that was worth millions of dollars to your company, and you have recovered from this ugly data the actual real data that you can put back into your accounting system. You're now a hero, right? Are you a computer scientist? No. You didn't write an operating system, but you solved a problem. And I get letters like that all the time from people who have jobs that seemingly have nothing to do with programming, where they can be a hero dealing with a little tiny bit of data and writing sometimes a 30-line Python program to solve a problem. So that's my real world example. And I hear that all over and over and over again.
And I just 2 things to add to that. One is I would like people to leave these classes with the confidence to realize that computers are wrong, that a computer program can be wrong.
Very wrong.
I don't want people to see that $1 billion mistake and go, oh, but the computer said So if that little bit of confidence
Yep.
can help you to say, let's
That's perhaps
double
the most
check.
important
I
thing of
think
all.
that is a little bit more.
Like if you're dealing with a website and
Mhm.
like it messes up, you'll realize after Colleen's course that like a human being built it, right?
Yes, yeah.
It didn't come from like
I made that same mistake when I was in the
spaceship,
class.
right?
I can't fix it, but I made that same mistake.
So if you see like NAN on a
Mhm.
website, oh, that would be JavaScript. They're calculating something in JavaScript and they're messing that thing up.
And then just the second thing I wanted to mention is in my class, I would be thrilled if some people didn't go on to be programmers, but
Yeah.
took what I had, because I try to talk about accessibility a lot, about making your sites and just making sure the world in general is accessible to people who maybe access the data in different ways. And so I really love the idea of people who have no desire to be a computer scientist taking my course and saying, hey, I now know what can be done and I'm going to go make other people do it. I'm going to have the power to say, it doesn't need to be this messy. I know that it can be fixed, and Colleen said so, and go fix it.
So I will pile on to your idea.
Yeah.
Another important job in the future is quality assurance and testing.
Yep.
And it turns out that if you get a job in testing, you don't actually have to write the software, but it turns out you're a lot better at testing software if you have a little bit of a clue as to why it's behaving the way it does. So you take a programming class, you take a database class, you take a web design class, you take a accessibility and responsive design, and now you're working for a company doing quality assurance. And you're smart. Not that you could write the software, but you can see through the software. You can see and go like, I will test it this way because I know how programs work, and this program might be wrong, and I might catch it making a mistake. And so there are classes, I don't know if there's any classes on Coursera, on testing, where you're kind of preparing for a quality assurance career. And I've known a number of people who find their way into technology through quality assurance and tech support too. So there's tech support roles that are easier than programming roles. So you might work for a technical company and answer questions. My wife works in a space where she works with people who are applying for money to help them so they don't lose their house due to foreclosure. And is she a programmer? No, but she uses technology 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the more she knows about technology, the better she can do her job, because things don't always go right. As Colleen has already mentioned before, when something goes wrong, you got you got a much better idea what might be going wrong. What's the background required for your specialization?
Absolutely none. In fact, I mean, that's one of my biggest, I don't know if it's a concern, but my course is really an introductory course. And if I have people coming in who've already done a lot, like, oh, hey, I have an undergrad degree in computer science, this course is not for you. You're welcome. And maybe you'll learn some things about accessibility.
Computer science, you might not have had these things for your class.
And again, they might not. And so you're very welcome, but you'll just have to, you'll have to hang with us. I really designed the class for newcomers.
Yep.
And so you're more than welcome and help out. But I'm taking this you've never programmed anything in your life. You've never saved, any type, you've only used Word, and you don't even need that in this class. But I assume you can open a file.
You can start your computer.
You start your computer, yeah.
So my son, 9 years old, is interested in programming. Is Python an appropriate place for him to start? So first I'll say, Coursera has a rule about you have to be 13 or over to be in the class. So that's first thing. Mm-hmm. But then I'm gonna turn it over to Colleen, who's the expert in having kids this age.
So my son's 10. I have a 6, 8, and 10-year-old, and they've all been programming for a little bit now. I've actually started them all off on Scratch, the scratch.mit.edu. But my son has moved on and he likes Python. I find that with the 9-year-old set, the problem with learning Python at first is, to them, it's boring. They have grown up with incredible graphics and video games and things like that. So I don't know if I'm allowed to drop names here, but we've just started him on something new called Code Combat. And you can pick any number of programming languages, but I've started him on Python and he really likes it. Of course, it's Code Combat, so get prepared for him to bash people over the head with a sword, in the program, but he really enjoys it. My son also knows a little bit of JavaScript, but I found that it can be mostly textbooks and things like that. Typos in textbooks will kill you because not everyone's mom has a PhD in computer science. And most nights, I'd sit there at night and I'd be like, oh, he moved it. So I think Python's a really great one to start off learning, but you have to realize that if for the kids, if things aren't moving, they're going to lose interest really quickly. So you may want to, look and see if there's actually a lot with Minecraft. There's
Yeah.
that's what my kids have done. They've gone to a local company called GameStart, and they've done all their classes. I try to avoid teaching them myself. I like to sit back and let them do what they want, and then come in and be the savior, when it doesn't work. But Python will work, but try to find something that has a GUI attached, a graphical game to it.
Yeah, JavaScript is a little hard as the first language.
Mhm.
Most people for quite a while take JavaScript
Mhm.
and they'll grab some and they'll change it
Mhm.
as compared to like starting with a blank slate. Whereas Python is a lot more you can handle it better starting
Yeah.
from a blank slate.
So if you have kids, you might also want to check out code.org, where they have just so many different resources, so many different languages.
And I'll just emphasize the Scratch thing. I mean,
Yes.
to me, Scratch to me, unless they're like 14 or 15,
Mhm.
Scratch might as well always be your first language because Scratch teaches a lot of really good things
Mhm.
that move gently into Python. And so,
I'm gonna have my grad students use Scratch on Friday in the first day of class for
Cool.
my Java class, just to show them the idea of objects and classes and methods. I want to have them get their hands dirty the first day.
don't feel bad about having your children learn Scratch first.
Mhm.
It's a great first step, and don't hurry them out of it either. Let them enjoy Scratch. Let them a whole year on Scratch at the age of 9 or 10 is not a bad use of time. It's a great use of time.
And then they'll leave, and then they'll come back to it. That's what happens. They
Okay.
leave it, and then they come back to it.
Is this going to be available recorded? Yes. If you go to live.drchuck.com afterwards, we always have the previous recording available, and we'll probably start a YouTube channel or something that has all of them. All classes will be live. No.
I'm wondering if they're
Oh,
asking
alive,
if
available.
all of the on-demand classes will launch at once and then won't.
Yeah. Okay. So
Will-
Marvado,
Mhm.
will all the classes be live? And the answer is, in the beginning, partly because some of the classes are still being finished.
Oh yeah.
Some of the classes are still being finished. They will have a rolling start, but then once they're going, we're hoping that you never wait more than a week or two to start a new session of any class.
With the exception of the capstone.
Well, with the exception of Capstone.
Right, because the capstone is going to be special. We're going to be trying to be more hands-on. I believe the capstone will be offered. I mean, it'll be offered a few times a year.
3 is our
3
current
times a year.
number.
Yep. But the other courses will be,
Just
anytime.
rolling.
Yep.
Rolling starts. What kind of textbooks will we use? Oh, what a great,
Yeah.
great question. What kind of textbooks will we use? Do you have any suggestions for us to pre-review the course? Thanks.
All right. Using online textbooks. In fact,
Free
free. There was on the specialization, they had reference to a textbook.
for yours?
For mine, they're taking that off and they're putting up a link, or if not, I'll have it on my site. It's going to be a free online textbook called The Missing Link, Introduction to Web Programming and HTML. I might have that title slightly wrong because I haven't had to read it. And so we'll be using that
I'll look it up.
textbook as well as just various online resources, but all resources will be free and available online. How about you, Jack? You've got your book.
So the name of the book that
Okay.
you're using,
Mhm.
that we both found, is The
Mhm.
Missing Link on Introduction to Web Development and Programming, written by Michael Menendez, published by Open SUNY, and and for both Colleen and I, one of the things we're very passionate about is keeping the cost down, so that
Yes.
if you do everything for free, we want the book to be free as well. So we're not going to choose a book from a publisher that was not free. And so this textbook is free. There's for Colleen's class, the EPUB is free, the PDF is free, and you can buy a physical book if you want.
Mhm.
And if you can afford the book and you want to thank Open SUNY for and Michael Menendez for making their book, then go ahead, by all means, buy the book and show the love, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But we insist we will adapt our courses around free materials if necessary, rather than take a Pearson textbook for $170. And I don't believe in even free rent. Like, here, you can rent this textbook for free for the 8 weeks
30
that you're in the
days, yeah.
class, and then you lose it, and then you got to pay $130. Sorry, it should be free now and forever, and open as much as possible. I didn't bring a copy of my book. The book in the Python class is called Python for Informatics, and that also that was written by me. And that you can get started on that. I have a website called pythonlearn.com that's got most of the stuff of the course. My book has been translated into 3 languages: English, Spanish, Korean, and Chinese. And those are all free as well. You can also buy copies of my book and all of its and all but the Chinese translation on Amazon for less than $10. And so you're welcome to get started in the books right away. Both for Colleen's specialization and my specialization, they're free. You can pay for them if you want, and away we go. But I'm very, very proud of the choices that we've made in the textbooks for this class, because I feel like it fits in the kind of the whole goal of free education and education for everybody. And it also means that if you can take our materials and you can use them to teach locally, then you can, for the people that you're teaching, we taught you from a free textbook, and then you can then locally use a free textbook in your own teaching, because we want to make it so that we're not selling a $160 textbook over and over and over again. And the only way you can do something with it is cause a whole bunch of other students to pay $160 for the textbook.
And if you look at the textbook for my class, just so they don't freak out, the course does not cover the entire textbook.
No.
It's actually only the first, I believe, 2 sections. So we really focus on the first part of the book. Later, there might be other courses.
Yeah, I'm actually using the book. We both teach on campus. Colleen's teaching a web design classes on campus and using the book on her on-campus class. I'm teaching a class that's kind of after her web design that someday I want to turn into specialization, called Web Application Development for Everybody, and I'm using the same textbook. And you can see that class on www.php-intro.com, and you'll find the link to that Menendez book from there, because I'm using it on campus as well. Because again, I both want to reward people like Michael and Open SUNY for giving us this great gift free by choosing their textbook rather than choosing an expensive textbook, even for our on-campus students who could technically afford it. But if folks like Colleen and I don't invest in the people who give us these gifts, and instead, just kind of like cop out and go to, expensive publisher books, I don't know. I just wouldn't feel good about that.
Right.
It doesn't seem right. Python for Everybody starts in October, getting started with Python. So from David, programming for everybody in Python starts in October, or getting started with Python and Python data structures. Which should I take? We're, like I said, at the top of the conversation, we're still working on what's going to happen with the October running of programming for everybody. And there's a chance that we're just going to kind of move those in. So if you haven't chosen yet, you might as well go ahead and choose the getting started with Python class and not sign up for programming for everybody. That would be my recommendation at this point, because that's where we're going to be putting kind of all the eggs in the basket of the new courses. So is there any advantage towards taking Python versus learning the R language? And we had this last time. My feeling is if you're going to be a data mining person, you need both. If you're just going to be sort of like an accountant, maybe you do need R. I can't imagine a scenario where I would tell you to learn R and not learn Python. I would say it's okay to learn Python and nothing else, and it's okay to learn Python and R. I think R by itself, I don't see the point of that.
I don't know R.
R is a statistical package like SAS and SPSS.
Yeah, I know what it is,
And
but
it's
I haven't
powerful.
had the need yet, so I'm just being honest out there. But the students in our department take it.
Oh yeah.
But they do take Python first.
Yeah. So Python is a great way into R. R by itself, you end up, it's a little too much of a padded cell, and you sort of like the world is flat and you fall off the edge of R. And Python is, you can do anything you want in Python. It's a little less powerful, but more flexible. And so the key thing is I'm not a big fan of trying to, if R is the best tool for the job, then you should use R and learn R. And if Python's the best tool for the job, you should use Python. And just like we were saying about that Python and JavaScript, they seem completely different, and yet knowing them makes you stronger in general. So knowing both R and Python makes you stronger.
Seems like the top one's an easy one to answer.
Can I take?
Will the students in the same class be able to communicate with each other?
Yes. So in this rolling session, there will be, each session will get its own set of forums, and you'll still introduce yourself and do all the stuff that we've been doing in Coursera. And then there'll be some discussions that live from session to session, more discussions about how to do blank or how to do this or whatever. So we'll have pinned threads that last across sessions, and then we'll have empty threads that are for each session. So for example, if you take the, the Getting Started with Python, it starts September 15th. There'll be like a hello thread, and everyone will fill that up with hellos. And there'll be another thread of like, what's the best text editor? And that'll probably be pinned, and then you'll fill that up. But then the people who would start it like 6 weeks later will have empty threads for introduce yourself, but then there'll still be a thread about what's the best text editor, and that'll stay from session to session. So we as the teaching staff, we get to choose which threads stay from session to session and which threads start. So if you take a class and you drop out of that class, and then you wait and you pick back up in the next session, you'll have to introduce yourself again. But your homework will all be there, and your assignments and your quizzes will all be there. But one of the reasons for that, which is that one thing that I've learned over the years that I've been doing Coursera, the fun of Coursera is when you, the student, make this course your own. So it's sort of like you're scribbling on the wall, right? I mean, this building belongs to you because you scribbled on the wall. Not that I'm encouraging people to scribble on walls. But the point being is, by having things empty and letting you create some of the knowledge structure that makes up the course, that's called constructivism, where you're actually helping construct the knowledge that makes up the course. And so the last thing we wanted to do was for you to come in a year from now and there to be 1 million posts and for you to think, oh, there's nothing to be said. And the answer is no, there's always something to be said. So we clear it out. And that's why we kind of like this rolling session with the ability to sort of sneak from session to session if you get lost. It's all about giving you as many chances as possible and the best chance of finishing. That's what all the whole thing is designed to do.
I've signed up for Chuck's class in the past and then made it 3 weeks in, and then someone needed to be potty trained and I dropped out, and then I came back. Like,
hopefully the teacher didn't need to be potty trained. Will there be translations of the lessons? So in my class, the slides are translated. In my Python class, the slides are translated already. So you have to go to the right Google Doc. I got like 30 translations of the slides. I got 4 translations of the book. We have about 4 or 5 transcript, the closed captions. And so the closed captions will be there. And so that pretty much is the extent of the translation. Colleen's classes, you'll have closed captions. It'll be translated in a couple languages, but your slides aren't translated yet.
No, that's something I could definitely work on in the future. But right now I'm, definitely aiming to get feedback from students. This is not a one and done, the Intro to HTML course, and all the courses will over time evolve based on how things change, and feedback from students and say, hey, I'm going to stick an extra couple lectures in here on there, this and that. So
I have the advantage that I've been teaching for a while.
Right. Yeah.
And so the stuff that's got translated has been seen by students. So you're doing exactly the right thing.
I want to get it right before we spend too much time translating it, to make sure we get the best possible stuff out there.
Right. If we have a final project or other tests, could we exchange knowledge with others? That's a great question. Frankly, that's the whole purpose of the capstone, right? The whole purpose of the capstone, as Colleen has already described with her project, is a thing that you can share with others.
Right.
So we're not doing the exact same homework in the capstone. We're supposed to sort of like diverge, and you're supposed to do your own thing, and then you'll just do that on the open web, and there will be your capstone project, right? And if you do like a visualization, some data visualization where you read data from some API and you visualize it, you can show that to everybody, and it's okay. And you can put your code in GitHub. And so that's part of the fun of the capstone, is be many more peer grading things in a capstone, and that kind of more interaction about your stuff in the capstone.
Right. Now in the earlier classes, we do really push, we don't want you posting code to each other, because you can't unsee it. Once you show somebody the answer, they can't unsee that answer, and it's really hard for them to claim it as their own. So, early on, we don't want you sharing the answers, but at the same time, you can retake the quizzes as much as you want. You can post any type of general question you want, but we really frown on posting your, the code answers, even little snippets. It's You just can't unsee it. But I'm excited about the capstone in my course because it really will give you this chance to, not only not only share yours, but look at other people's and say, how did you do that? I want to do that too. And then I'm perfectly fine if they share with you exactly how they did it, because tweaking things and making your own is much harder than you would expect if you don't have the basics down. So tweaking is really going to be what the capstone is about in some cases, is take this template. Hey, I want to add what they added. Oh no, I took their code, but it fails. How do I fix that? So.
Hey, could you scroll up, Tim? There was a thing that just popped off the bottom that I was going to answer. Right there. Can I take a course? Okay, so then I want to answer that one. Now scroll up, Tim, because Colleen, I want you to look at that one and read that one and get ready to answer
I'm
that
ready.
one. Okay, so I want to do an easy one. Can I take a course at a time instead of signing up for the whole specialization from the beginning? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. You can take the courses in any order. You can take them one at a time. You can even take the courses for free and then get the certification later. The only place that really matters is that at the moment that you enter the capstone. In a sense, we're going to do prerequisite checking when you enter the capstone. Do you have certificates in all the prerequisite courses before you're allowed to enter the capstone? Which literally means that you could take all the classes, pay for absolutely nothing, and then a week before the capstone, but you got to do verification. You got to keep verification turned on. So don't turn verification off, because then you got to go take all that stuff with the verification on. But you could do it free with verification on, and then you have all 4 courses done. You haven't paid a single penny. I'm not sure this is the best strategy, but I'm just telling you.
Saying they're all cringing right now as you're
Right.
saying that.
You could be sitting there and you could say, oh, certificate, 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 and poof, you're in the capstone, right? So you can pay up front, and that's good for you actually to pay up front because you're motivated to finish.
Keeps you honest.
But you can take them however you want. But at the moment you're signing up for the capstone, you will have to have all those certificates in place, and you can pick the certificates early or later, but you can't turn off verification and then later get a certificate. Hope I answered that right. And I'll turn that one over to the next question over to you.
All right, so the next one is, I just completed the programming for
No.
Hi,
that
Chuck
one.
and Colleen. I am now 28 and thinking of changing careers to programming. Am I too late to change careers? And then my plan is to join one of the programming boot camps. It is not too late to change your mind. We were actually talking about this right before the live office hours started. And I was saying there's actually a huge group of my own friends, like ages 30 to 45, a little bit older, who've decided, no, they're going to go into programming. They want a solid job. They either are done raising their little kids, or they've been working this whole time and it's just not fulfilling them for what they want to do. Even as an undergrad advisor, when students would come in and say, I'm torn between computer science and this, I would almost always tell them to go do the this, because you can go do the this, the physics or whatever it was, and then you can come back and learn some of the programming if you want to. I love when students come in and they know other things. They bring something to programming that you miss out on a little bit when you start off as a kid and you've been programming all the way through and you never look up. You miss a few things that when people from other fields come in, they just bring so much. So my PhD thesis was on NurseBot. It was a robotics assistant for the elderly. And we needed that. We needed the nurses, and we needed the caretakers, and we needed teachers, and we needed everybody. And so I'm excited. Now, I don't know about that particular boot camp myself.
So I'm not a fan of boot camps.
They cost a lot of money.
They cost a lot of money, and you should be well prepared. And they will tell you apocryphal stories about that one student. And often you find that one student who went and made a 6-figure income the day after the boot camp, they probably were super well prepared before the boot camp started. So don't think that you can go from nothing to a 6-figure income with a 30-day boot camp, even if that boot camp costs $15,000. Usually something that costs $15,000, the best deal that's for is the person who's cashing the check for $15,000. I'm not anti-boot camp, but
I do have some students who've taken it and they've really enjoyed it, but they were still in my class later for whatever reason. I think maybe because it was required, but I do like the idea of, if you're thinking that way, go ahead and take some of our Coursera courses. See if it really clicks with you, because if the most important thing is if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to like it. So find out if you enjoy this yet. Find out if you enjoy tinkering and you don't mind
And if
know,
you're going to take a boot
frustration.
camp, it's like going and getting an undergrad in computer science. You don't want to not know anything about computers at all
Mhm.
and then say, I'm going to go get a computer science degree. Right? You better have prepared. It's no different than if you're going to go get a physics degree.
Mhm.
Say, you know what? I spent my whole life working at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I
Mhm.
did nothing. And you know what? I'm a sophomore in college and I've never taken any physics. I've never done any math, but I want to learn physics. It's like, whoops.
Yeah.
So for a boot camp to be most effective for you, you should actually have some skills before you walk in. I'm sure the boot camp people will take your money, but the more skill you have walking in, the more likely that boot camp will become a networking activity where you meet people and you fine tune your skill missed in the classes, as compared to it's a quick and dirty substitute. Here's a little pill and you're going to lose weight, right? There's just seldom a pill that substitutes for sort of doing some exercise.
And 28 is not too old. In
I was
fact,
gonna-
at this point, it's almost, I'm like, oh, yeah. I remember when I
28.
was 28. I was still in school too. So
I'll have a different. I mean,
yeah.
I think I'm almost double that. But so the key to 28, that is, other than us old people reminiscing about our youth, the key to 28 is
Years.
you trying to get us to stop reminiscing about being 28. The key to 28 is that you can approach programming from a much more mature perspective. And what Colleen was talking about was how you kind of go and do something and follow your journey and then you come back. Part of coming back and following that journey is being mature, not screwing up. And not going like, I messed up. I think I'll play some video games, right? I mean, hopefully at 29, you're ready to buckle down and you're ready to realize, I can figure this out. And you don't like cry as often and you apply yourself because you've done something already and you've become mature and strong in the doing of that. And so that's why I like it. So you can move through it a lot faster as a grown-up. And I know this because when I went to school as an undergraduate, I took so long that the first part of my schooling, I was a young, immature, just post-teen. And by the time I was done with school, I was 35 years old because that's how long it took me. But I approached school very differently as a 35-year-old than I did as a 20-year-old. And so you have certain advantages at 29 of like, you're going to set yourself a schedule. You're going to stick to it. You know that it matters. You know that this too shall pass. You know that you'll get the skills. Whereas someone who's like 14 is like, what, why, how? And they got to pick something and do something. And so that's why I like the age that you're at. And Colleen was talking about the people who are even a little bit older, who are like, they're going to get to it. They're going to be dedicated and they're going to finish it. And then they're going to do something good with it.
And my dad's signing up and he's 76. So
yeah. So that's
I'm
3
even
times
watching it.
28.
Yeah,
That's
there we
3
go.
times 28. Hey, take a look at freecodecamp.com. Hey, that sounds like maybe it's something after our own hearts of a free code camp. So we're about running out of time here. As a matter of fact, we were out of time 15 minutes ago, right, Tim? Okay, so we'll have to wrap this up. So follow me on Dr. Chuck and follow Colleen.
You hate mine. It's Colleen at
S.I.
SI.
Colleen, A-T-U-M-S-I. I don't hate it.
Oh, okay.
I just type at C-O-L and hit the tab key.
And then it goes. So.
It's a bit long. But we answer questions on Twitter. You've been answering questions on Twitter,
absolutely.
right?
Twitter's the best way to.
I answer questions on in the forums in the recent classes that we've taught. And then, of course, once these classes start, we'll have new places to talk to you. But Twitter's a great place to ask these questions. I mean, I've had a bunch of Twitter stuff, and I wrote whole blog posts about all this detail. So I'll let you sign off.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we're excited. And we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yeah.
A lot of you have seen Chuck and be me. So.
See Colleen next week.
And I will let you know that it's my first online course. And so I do look over the camera for the first 2 lectures. I move my eyes back down and look at you once for about a weekend.
As Colleen's mentor, I said, first you got to record yourself and look at your own recording for a while to get used to it.
There we go. Yeah.
So,
bye.
See you.